What is up, everybody? We are here. We are live. No intro video today because it's draft time. We're starting to draft right now with some experts from Sirius XM around the league. We're doing a super flex rookie mock draft. I'm Andrew Cooper on Fantasy Alarm here. Brought in my good guy, Chuck Bass here, drafting with us, bringing his expertise. I told you to bring two things today to the draft. I asked you to first do some curls so you're looking strong. I see you did those. Yeah, fantastic. I also asked you to hit up Chat GPT, kind of plug in some, see if we give you some takes on some of these players. Did you do that?
Yeah, I did. I got caught a little bit, with like military defense spending and some guerrilla versus man stuff. Got a little sidetracked, but I did manage to, at the last minute, get some tidbits.
Perfect. Well, then I think we're ready to rock and roll. Here's what we're doing here. It's going to be, you know what? This is kind of our own. I did ask you to do the curls, but I'm actually going to move us completely down to the bottom for this draft so we can get it up here.
Love
Get
it.
everybody in, get everybody going. We've got a number of experts. We're doing a 4-round mock draft, so 48 players are going to be picked. It's going to be a super flex league, no tight end premium. People didn't want me to get an advantage in this league that we're not even playing. But that's going to be the deal. It's PPR. Everything else is pretty standard. So I'm going to get us kicked off right now. Coming up first, our guy Eric Romoff is going to go. You ended up with the second pick here. We've got Bob Harris, and we'll go through them as we go. So let's get this puppy started. Sleeper warning me that the action can't be undone. Let's get that sound off immediately. And here we go. Well, let me ask you, because you're up second here. Who's your number two? Because everybody and their uncle, their mom, their cousin, they have Ashton Genty one. Who's two?
Yep. This is a tricky one for me. I'm in about 10 rookie drafts right now, and I have not been able to get this guy in a single one of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and let it rip here. Give me the big dog. Give me the Otani. Give me the
Yeah.
generational superstar. I don't care if he's never going to be the wide receiver one in Jacksonville. I can live with that.
Well, the thing is he could be. I mean, here's the thing. I can make a case for it right now. The possibility that he could be and again, wide receiver one is it's a tricky term because in fantasy we just imagine it's the guy who gets the most targets, the most fantasy points. But for some of these teams, they consider the split end or the X wide receiver to be their wide receiver one. That guy doesn't necessarily get the most points. Think about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Liam Cohen comes over from, right? What if he decides that because to have Brian Thomas Jr. now play the Mike Evans role on the outside and have Travis Hunter play the Chris Godwin role, a role that's just easier in terms of getting better coverage, in terms of matchups.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible that it goes that way, and it doesn't matter that one guy's better than the other. One guy has the easier path. I mean,
yeah, I look at it. It's certainly in the range of outcomes. I look at it more like Devonta Smith, especially at his playing weight, and with Brian Thomas Jr. kind of being that BTJ. But you know what? Devonta Smith is kind of a frustrating player from a fantasy perspective. He's ultra talented and he shows up in big moments, but he's a little spottier than you would want him to be. And that's because they have AJ Brown across the way. They have Jalen Hurts, who, for all his strength, is a somewhat limited passer compared to some of the elite guys. Can Trevor Lawrence step up and make me eat dirt? Hey, I would love to. I just took him with the second overall pick in this draft. I would certainly love to be a little bit more gung-ho.
I asked these guys to take their time on the picks, and they, of course, naturally completely ignore
people
that.
got stuff. They got places to be. They got this might be a busy crowd.
Clearly very busy crowd. So I'm on the clock. I'm going to use the whole clock here because we're trying to slow things down. I want to talk a little bit about these guys. I'm going to take a guy that I'm higher on than most, a guy that, while we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Emeka Egbuka. So for those trying to tag along, here's how the first round has gone so far. It's super flex. So if you're wondering why Cam Ward went early, it's that because quarterbacks are worth extra. You have Ashton Genty, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Ted McMillan, Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, Quinshawn Judkins, RJ Harvey, who I'd love to get your take on after this, Caleb Johnson, Emeka Egbuka, now Joe Bartel's on the clock. Of those first couple of picks, anything stand out to you as something you don't necessarily like or somebody going against consensus that you love?
Omari and Hampton at 1.6 just feels like tremendous value. That's who I probably would have taken without Hunter. I have him closer to Genty than I have him to Henderson or Judkins or any of these guys. Perfect landing spot. Najee Harris, 1-year deal. They beefed up the line. I mean, there's just so much to love from a talent, scheme fit, draft capital standpoint. I think he's as close to a sure's bet as we're going to get with most of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, and when you go through and start looking at like the metrics that we pay attention to and the hit rates, when you take a guy with his size and speed combination, his production, like the back-to-back monster years after a good year when he was a freshman year, then back-to-back monster years, and then you add on the draft capital and then you add on the landing spot, like the hit rate for guys like this in terms of just having a top 24 season at some point, Dwayne McFarland said that like 91% of the guys that fit the profile have that at some point. So as far as a safe pick goes, like I love Amari Hampton. I have him ranked 2 as well.
Nice.
But I'm RJ Harvey's really growing on me.
I know. I saw some Harvey buzz today. I love the Joe Lombardi for all the Joe Lombardi jokes that have been made over the last 5 years. He has been talk about a sure bet. That is automatic production at the running back position.
That's what I'm saying. And for those that don't know, I went in, I looked at the last 18 years of Joe Lombardi offenses and where
just stand up and take a bow for doing that, by the way. That's just deep dive work.
The thing is, some of these teams, he was just kind of on the staff. Some of the times he was the coordinator. So but anytime he's been on a staff, 18 straight years, and I did triple check it to make sure. 18 straight years, he's been top 5 in passes to the running back. And they've averaged 164. Some of these teams went over 200. And I know those teams, obviously, some of them had Alvin Kamara, some of them had Austin Eckler, some of them had Reggie Bush and Theo Riddick and Joyke Bell and whoever else. Yeah. But like that, we can't ignore that this guy loves doing that. And both of these teams, I don't know why it's not picking me my guy here.
Of course.
Yes, of course. Both these teams that he's run with the Broncos have been top 5 as well, and they haven't really had a good pass catcher. People don't realize Javonte Williams got 70 targets last year. So for me, RJ Harvey converted, and again, he's older, but that's because he was a converted quarterback. He got hurt, and they had to take it slow with him. So I mean, I'm feeling good about it.
You should. And I like you bring up how much the Broncos tried to force the play style in the last 2 years. It's like that guy who goes to like, no matter where he's at, what quality of the bar is, he's always going to order the same cocktail. And it's like, dude, are you sure you want to order that here? And he's like, nah, man, this is just what I drink. That's kind of what they were doing with these last 2 years. I have a question for you though. RJ Harvey running away from the quarterback position, converting to running back, scared to compete?
I mean, I don't want to name names, but I know that's a classic classic draft question.
You got to wonder.
Yeah, scared to compete. I mean, dude, the thing is, half these guys played quarterback at some point. It's just like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, Tyler Warren was a quarterback when he got to college as well. I mean, like, it's just when you're that much of a freak growing up, they just say you're the quarterback, dude, and you just run it whenever you feel like it and throw it whenever you feel like it. Yeah. And then, they kind of trickle down. The thing is, I mean, for him to get, and again, it's such a risky profile that had he gone in the 4th round, we wouldn't like it, right?
Yeah,
we'd be out. But because he went where he went in terms of both location and draft capital, don't really have any choice but to be in, right?
Sure.
So rounding out the 1st round, I took Egbuka, Matthew Golden went, Rotobuzz guy double tapped Trey Harris and Jaden Blue. Looks like he's digging on that landing spot for the Cowboys. Joe Bartel took Jackson Dart, which I really think that's a great pick in Superflex. I think that's a good player. I took Colston Loveland. Tyler Warren went next. Luther Burden went. Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin double tap on the tight ends, which I find interesting because I don't have either of those guys as my next tight end on the board, believe it or not. Cam Scatabo goes, Jalen Milroe, Jaden Higgins to our guy, Bob Harris. And then now you are up here on the clock. This is not tight end premium, so
yeah, I appreciate them clearing the runway for me here to take off because, not to revert, but these tight ends that I'm seeing really haven't been going until the 3rd round in a lot of the main drafts. But you know what? They could be playing to the audience. You might be getting some yellow love here. So I'm going to take a guy that I'm actually pretty high on, regardless of fit, land, or anything like that. Give me Beck boy.
So the thing with him and a few other guys, I do want to say on tight end is I actually
Mm.
do have Loveland and Warren ranked fairly high, both in my
Sure.
regular and super flex and
Yeah.
tight end premium. Like I think they can and should be first, early, second round picks. The thing with
Mm.
the next group is I'm content taking whoever's left. So
Good.
for me, it's like I'm probably not going to use a second round pick on any of the, even if I have a guy like Terrence Ferguson ranked as my
Yeah.
tight end 3. I'm not going to use any of the capital on that. I'm going to wait for it to come around. So I
Yeah.
probably don't take those guys there. But talk to us about Jack Besh. I mean, this is a guy that everybody loves. It's funny, like a lot of years we have all these sleepers that the fantasy community loves, and then those guys go undrafted and
Mm.
whatever. This year we had all those sleepers, and they all got picked in like the second and third round.
Yeah.
So it's
He,
like,
I love him specifically in the Chip Kelly offense and kind of fulfilling a role that they kind of need. He's a pro-ready guy. He's got a limited ceiling, but I just think they're going to be able to manufacture him touches. He's not the most athletic player, but he's kind of like that Keenan Allen type that uses his I don't want to say athleticism, but he's in great control of his body, and he's able to kind of create that separation from a non-athletic standpoint. I think he's going to step in pretty quickly. Brock Bowers is going to be the focal point, but there's always room for these guys to eat underneath. I do want to say it puts me in a tricky position because I think in these rookie drafts, that's the teardrop, right? You want one of those first 20 guys, and then you hope one of them fall. And then after that, you better really be in love with some of these prospects because the landing fits for all of these guys in the second and third rounds, I hate it. I'm going to take a guy that I'm high on. I'm going to take a little Jock Hunter here. I like the fit in LA. I think he brings some burst to that backfield. Blake Corum, I don't know. He looks like the book has been written on him. And Kyron Williams might be carrying too much of the workload there. Give me the young fella.
yeah, I love it. I mean, and Jarquez Hunter, the thing with him that you have to keep in mind is that some of these teams, they don't go, like basically the Les Snead coaching tree, they don't go to the combine. They don't have top 30 visits. They just have a list of their guys and they get as many of them as they can. And they're not scared to trade out. They're not scared to trade back, as we see they trade back in the first round. But
Mm,
the funny thing is, the Les Snead tree of general managers, like these guys are all not only getting other jobs, but they're winning awards. I mean, Brad
yeah.
Holmes left and won back-to-back executive of the year. James Gladstone's now the GM of the Jaguars. And for as many of us sit back and say, oh, I don't like this GM. I think he's not good. Any players he plays, I'm going to fade. We did it with Belichick for years. I
Yeah.
rarely ever see people do the other thing, the flip side of it, where we say, you know what? I trust Les Snead. I trust Brad Holmes. I trust James Gladstone. If they're in
Mhm.
on these guys, I'm in. Because
Yeah.
for years we've seen teams like the Steelers just hit and hit and hit on wide receivers.
Mm.
So I'm with you. It's like if they're in on Jarquez Hunter when they've found Kyron Williams and they found Cooper Kupp and they found Puka Nacua,
Yeah.
like
No, you're right. Traded up for him. It's basically a coronation. And like you said, the benefit of the doubt is big. Kyron Williams runs like he's trying to make guys not love football. And while that's awesome for
right,
redraft in short term, that's why Blake Corum we thought was going to be valuable. And they're taking another swing at it. They're taking meaningful capital too. It just feels like a more of a bright spot, especially compared to the rest of these guys who I think are just going to be buried on depth charts for a few years here.
right. And I'll tell you uh with Jarquez Hunter, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. One, maybe they do want to lessen the workload on Kyron Williams. He played 87% of the snaps last year.
Yeah,
The other is that what if he becomes the guy and they just keep doing that? Then the
please.
ceiling is crazy. The ceiling
Yeah.
is that he could just be the guy that gets all the snaps, which nobody else is doing.
It
I just
also
got
gives me the opportunity to take two guys named Hunter in the first three picks.
which I is so valuable, dude, especially when it comes to team names, right? Hunter X
I-
Hunter, and
Mm.
we're gonna have to workshop some of those.
NFL
But
has a long track record of guys named Jack or guys with the last name Hunter succeeding, and I'll take NFL history over some Chat GPT scouting report.
yeah, now the Alan Seslowski sniped me. I did not
Mm.
want Terrence Ferguson there.
Ooh, Patriots
So
blood running deep.
yeah, my Q is not doing great things up here, but that's okay. Double
Mm.
tapping the tight ends. You know what? Everybody, this is tight end premium. I'm changing. I'm changing
It's
this
super
here.
tight end premium, right? If I'm not mistaken, I thought that's where this one was going. Well, the Ferguson pick is kind of like the Hunter pick for the same team. Like they've been vocal for a couple years now about wanting to bring in a young athletic tight end and kind of, bring a new
Right.
dimension to this offense. And, that's another, that same thing you just said about Hunter can be applied to Ferguson.
Right. It's for the brand, that pick there. And
Mm.
yeah, like Tyler Higbee is on his way out the door. And the other part of it is that we got to see extended periods of Colby Parkinson and Davis
Mhm.
Allen last year, and they did nothing. And Colby Parkinson actually got peppered with targets for a period and just couldn't catch them.
Mhm.
So, like, to me, when that happens and guys get that sort of activity and do nothing with it,
Yeah.
then I'm willing to, and especially if a team goes out and takes a guy in the second round, I'm willing to
Mhm.
just move on.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat, there people are talking about Jaden Higgins. An interesting thing happened in this draft, Chuck. I noticed that a lot of teams seemingly drafted players that they already kind of had a version of, right?
Sure.
Like you guys with Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka, that was the top comp, right?
And it was
Every,
frustrating. Yep.
frustrating for fantasy, it is.
For
Uh,
me, as a Bucks fan, it's frustrating, but yeah.
See, I love the player and I love the idea long term, but short term hurts.
Mm.
But there was a bunch of that. It wasn't just there. It was like how many people were comping? What was the number one comp for Luther Burden? On like a lot in the
Mhm.
Twitter sphere. It was DJ Moore. Like everyone's throwing that name around. They take that guy. Jaden Higgins. People are comping him to Nico Collins.
Yep.
They take him. Like there's a ton of that going on. People were talking about Isaac Tesla and
Mm.
Amon Ross St. Brown, like in the deep cut of sphere. So it's kind of interesting for us. We look at it and say, okay, how do they find something they don't have? And for these teams, they probably look at these hit rates and how bad they are in reality. And maybe they're
Mhm.
saying, hey, let's just draft guys that we know are the type of guys that we like, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I mean, that's, you look at the Panthers even did that, for whatever you feel about Xavier Legette and his abilities. Ted McMillan is another big physical wide receiver that can kind of, maybe be the best version of that. Pat Bryant with Cortland Sutton. There's, you can
Yeah.
actually make a good case for a lot of guys in here.
There's a ton, but it's like if you really think about it, like we know the hit rates, right? 50% in the first round, about third, depending on who you ask, 30 to 35% in the second round,
Mhm.
maybe 25% at best in the third round. And then after that, it really drops off. And when you start looking at the number of compensatory picks, a
Yep.
fourth round, because people are like, oh, yeah, well, Pat Bryant went in the third round and Elick Iamenar went in the fourth round. So not that big a difference. But when you add up all the comp picks and the fact that Elick Iamenar went as a comp pick,
Yeah.
it's literally 60 picks. It's 62 picks between those two players. So
Yeah, that's the case I've been making for Scadaboo, who's got the fourth round capital, which looks, like, oh, let's write this guy off on paper. But I mean, that's typically a third round pick in most drafts.
right. Yeah. Like people, two things that people got to definitely focus on and factor into their rankings is that certain positions get drafted before others.
Mhm.
So if you're a late round late first round wide receiver to me, about equivalent to a second round running back. Like, is that not
Yeah.
about the case? And
We'll
and and,
see.
and same could be said for this group of fourth round running backs, right? It's a
Mhm.
deep class. So, but go on.
Yeah. So you took Woody Marks, who I'm seeing a lot of buzz for lately. A lot of buzz is, maybe pushing it a little bit. I'm seeing some buzz. Is it strange that he's only 3 years younger than Joe Mixon? And Joe
Right.
Mixon is considered old. That one is a fascinating one for me.
There's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of that
Yeah.
going on. And again, I'm taking a player. This is a fourth round pick.
Yeah.
Typically, your typical leagues around third round. You don't usually end up getting to those guys.
Yeah.
But for me, I look at it, and again, I wrote an article on draft narrative, right? Which
Mm.
the idea of that is you've got all these teams that need certain positions, and they
Mhm.
go through and say, okay, this team needs a big split end. Did they take him? Did they not? The example in the article was from 2021 when
Sure.
Michael Pittman went and T. Higgins went, and then everybody passed on. All the teams passed, including the Jets, who traded back, passed on Denzel Mims. But the fantasy
Yeah.
community was still obsessed with Denzel Mims because they liked him before the draft. Like when I watch this draft, I'm looking at what's happening in the draft
Mm.
and kind of comprehending, like, okay, these guys are going, those guys are going. To me, what happened in the fourth round is a bunch of teams were like, we like all these running backs, and we're gonna wait and take one of them. Or we like one of them that we know is going to go
Yeah.
after all these guys, right? With Woody Marks, a bunch of these guys were going, and then the Texans actually traded a next year's third round pick to
Yeah.
move up and take him in the fourth. So, yes, he is a fourth round pick, but they gave up a
Yep.
next year third, right? So, I'm not saying that makes him a third round pick, but does it? I mean, but
But
should that be factored in? So I really appreciate all of our experts going as fast as they possibly could and taking this draft, that could have been stretched out to 48 minutes and getting
yeah.
it done in 20. I mean, get it in 15 actually, because we
Mm.
started a couple minutes late. So
Yeah.
true professionals. Why don't we just go through and kind of recap it on our own
Sure.
without the extreme pressure of the football diehards?
Let the fun
And
begin.
that's right. So okay, let me hit them and say, and you just go through with a quick answer, and we'll stop at anybody that you think is interesting,
Okay.
or anybody that you think is out of line.
Yeah,
So
I'll give you how I feel, and then I'll give you how Chat GPT feels in quick
okay,
bullet points.
that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. So Genty, chalk.
Mhm.
Hunter,
Yep.
chalk. Cam Ward, would you have taken Hampton there instead of Cam Ward?
That one's just so team specific of all the players. I don't think he's, a supremely talented player. It's if you need a quarterback and you're rebuilding, you're taking him. Otherwise, I love the first round from a skill position standpoint. So I can't even truly give a real answer about that. Is Brian Callahan the guy? Who knows? Maybe if it was a more surefire outlook on the team success coming forward, I'd feel better about it.
Exactly. So here's where I'm at. Because we're doing a mock and we don't have teams,
Yeah,
I like Hampton just because it's in a
sure.
vacuum. But when you're grouping guys into tiers, if you want to take Hampton, if you want to take McMillan, if you want to take Ward, based on your team composition,
Yeah.
go for it. I probably, even in tight end premium though, I probably wouldn't put a tight end in that tier.
No,
I think
no,
that's
not
where I would.
especially, I love, I love I actually love where the back end tight ends went more, even though I don't think they're the same level of product. I like their fits long term better, but the talent wise is undeniable for the first two.
Yeah. Now, the comparison that I immediately thought of with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins as a
Mm.
Patriots fan
Mhm.
was the time that the Browns took the Patriots took Nick Chubb. Sorry, the Patriots took Sonny
Yeah,
Michel ahead of
yeah.
Nick Chubb, and that turned out to be, and that was wrong. It should have been Nick Chubb. I know Sonny Michel had the knee issues and all
That
that.
was an all time cursed draft.
They knew about the knee issue before the draft, though. So is this going to be one of those cases where Cleveland took Judkins this time? So Cleveland got to go first this time. They took Judkins. Patriots took Henderson. Where do you live
Yeah.
on those two players? Who do you have ranked first?
I think they're interesting because I'm probably taking Henderson because I really like the rest of the Patriots draft and I really like the direction the team's going. I like what they did to the offensive line. I love that Drake May can elevate the offense. All that stuff just feels like, okay, here's a home run hitter that is going to hopefully be given the opportunities to hit home runs compared to Judkins, who is kind of that like between the tackle guys. Well, the Browns had one of the, if not, they were bottom 5 in rush block win rate last year. And I didn't love the additions they made to the offensive line this year. So like a between the tackles runner that may not have the tackles to run between. That's going to take time. So, if I can hit the runway early again with Henderson and maybe have a top guy early on in that dynasty rebuild or wherever you're at compared to Judkins, who might be on that, 2 to 3 year plan. That's just kind of the difference for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with Henderson. Not even a homer pick, but I just know that what the Patriots want to do with McDaniel and the way that they won back when he was calling the plays is
Yeah.
that Henderson's going to get the targets, man. You
Mhm.
don't draft that guy there with the team you have now if you're not going to throw that guy the ball a ton.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't start the season with 4 consecutive games with a fumble like their other running back, I think he should be the dude there.
Mondre, man, he's like Chris Carson 2.0 with the fumbles, dude.
Brutal. God
It's
love him.
game losing.
Yep.
He didn't lose enough games though. We really needed a couple more fumbles there. Could have used a few more fumbles.
Sure.
So here's another popular question: do you like RJ? Do you like Judkins better or Johnson? Because Caleb Johnson and Judkins are very similar players in my eyes. I know some people will nitpick and be like, "Well, no, they totally do. This guy's got a spin move and the contact balance." But I mean, it's a similar profile in terms of being a big-bodied early down back that doesn't necessarily catch passes.
Yeah, I just realized, like, I talked about this on one of my other shows. Like, I was kind of depressed last year and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized it was because I didn't have a successful Nick Chubb in my life with that like strong Cleveland Browns running back mold. And I think Judkins is going to get there. Like I said, it might take a little bit. I don't want one thing to do with whatever the Steelers are cooking right now. Whatever their plan is, as far as a pro franchise goes, the bottom's coming out at some point and somebody's going to pay the price. If I can just not dip my toe in that pool of stupidity that they're let run their organization, I'm going to
Dude,
go ahead and do that.
I feel that about a few teams, and the teams, I mean, like, the people hate when I say it, but like, I feel a similar way about the Bears. And I still took Colson, I still
Yeah.
took Colson Loveland, but like, even while I take Colson Loveland, I look at this draft and I'm
Mhm.
like, Ryan Poles got to get fired, right? Like,
Yep.
I mean, and the thing about Ryan Poles is that, like, the more you go back and look at it, the more it's like
Mhm.
that Step Brothers. Well, now the suits are kind of effed up, right? Like,
Yeah.
because you go back, it's like, okay, he traded the first overall pick, which is the easiest thing to do. You say,
Mhm.
hey, here's the most, right? Here's the most valuable asset there is. Everyone make their best offer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then people are giving him credit for the Montez Sweat trade, right? Which good,
Sure.
right? But then it comes out the Falcons must have been so pissed about all the credit they were getting that they came out
Mm.
and said, "Oh, by the way, we offered our second round pick, but the Bears had 3 wins and they were dog water, so they got the player. If we were worse, we would have got the player, right? So
Yeah.
then it's like, wait a second, that is true. Every bunch of people offered a second round pick, but you were in line
Sure.
to be last, right?
Yep.
And then they get Caleb Williams by the luck of the Panthers being even having an even worse implosion, right?
Mhm.
And then along the line, they did so many crazy things. Like, they canceled out a comp pick for Allen Robinson to sign Byron
Mhm.
Pringle. You know,
Sure.
I'm gonna write an article instead of ranting on
Yeah,
here.
no, I'm with you though, because also like on top of all the fancy gadgets they brought in, I don't love the offensive line still. I don't love when
Right.
Super Bowl contending Chiefs let an offensive lineman go to another team when they
Me
need
neither
offensive
too.
line help. There's stuff like
Right.
that makes me go, we talk about sacrificial X in fantasy. Poles might be the sacrificial GM that somebody's going to come in and be like, there's some pieces here that I can work with, and we're going to build this into something.
I'm worried, bro. Not to mention, it's like, who's going to be the odd man out? Because they now have 3 wide receivers, 2 tight.
DJ Moore will be traded within 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
That's how I
Cole
feel.
Kmet's halfway through a $50 million contract.
God,
He,
already? Where does the time go?
I know, it's 2023. So I mean,
Jeez.
like, it is just crazy.
Yeah.
It's bad for fantasy, but I like Cole
Mhm.
Kmet, and the draft capital's there. The Tyler Warren versus Cole Kmet debate is an interesting one,
Yeah.
and because we're in the media, we want to make it into a more bigger and definitive debate. I know you can only pick one, but I think
Yeah.
both players are going to be good. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. There's
if
no
it was
doubt
a
about it.
different landing spot for either of them, it would have been easier,
Mm.
but they both went in the first round, both went early enough. Tyler Warren's going to play inline tight end, which isn't necessarily always ideal for fantasy. They have Josh Downs in the slot. They're not going to, people are like, oh, yeah, Wildcat QB. I mean, they have Anthony Richardson. So it
Yeah.
feels kind of weird to use your tight end for that, lefty tight end it just
He's
seems
just he's one of those guys that you can look at and be like, he's pretty much already the most talented pass catcher on this team.
easily.
If you tell me in 3
Oh, no, I
years
like
that this
Michael
guy
Pittman, but sorry, go ahead.
pass catcher though. I mean, like from what, like, oh, you know what, playmaker. How about that? Michael
Playmaker.
Pittman's a great move in the chains guy, but if you're telling me like you just don't have to tell me anything else other than in 3 years, Tyler Warren is a top 5 tight end, I'm like, I'm in. That means that they got rid of this regime. That means that they brought in a quarterback and we're good to go. Like I don't even have to think too much about it.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about the Jaden Blue pick here by my boss? So be careful.
He's been doing it a long time, so you really hate to see the guys go once they get towards the end of their career and make picks like this. But
Yes.
absolute legend. You know what? I think that's an easy one to just be. Where is that in here? 2-1. That's an easy one to just chalk that up to. Okay, the Cowboys did absolutely nothing in the offseason, and so that means that these jobs are up for grabs by whoever they bring in. It's shocking how little they actually did to improve the skill position group on this offense, but Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, those are just like their corpses banging against the side of the hull of whatever this Cowboys offense is going to be.
Right.
If Blue walks in and takes the job, I mean, that you hear every year there's a team that this happens to where you're like, oh, these guys went ahead of them in every draft, but the late drafted rookie or the undrafted free agent took the job. Of course they did. This feels like one of them.
Right. And it's an argument that you can make where it's like it's a deep draft class. So the fifth round should be the fourth round. That other guy, Phil Maffa, they took is like, he's a house, dude. Have you seen that guy? He's
Yeah,
like,
he's been in, I've made a lot of jokes about his name, but he's beast mode.
I think he's gonna end up, he could even just be like more like a fullback type. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know. He's like 240. I guess there have been guys that play at 240. Derrick Henry doesn't count because he's like 6'3". But
Yeah.
I guess Gus Edwards plays at like 238 or so. Somebody fact check that.
AJ Dillon. There were some top heavy dudes.
Yeah, very good players you're naming. Mike Tolbert. Like, so I don't know, man. I think that there's definitely an argument to be made. I just think that he could have got Jaden Blue at that spot in the next round. I really think that. I don't think that even the people that are highest on him.
Yeah.
What's that next round pick? 30? Maybe not. Probably though. I haven't met 33. I haven't met 33, which means he probably could have got him there.
You just look at that and you go, what's been one of the most steady and dominant positions in fantasy football over the last 8 to 10 years? And it's running back for the Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, I get it. And that's really one of the only teams you can do that with, that you're like, I like the role over the next 7 to 8 guys from a talent standpoint.
It's true. Even Rico Dowdle got it done last year. So a couple tight ends here. Luther Burden's been talked to death. Mason Taylor and Harold Fan. I'll just throw in that Mason Taylor, to me, like, he has the draft capital and the path, which are great. Yeah, I was a little concerning of his profile is that he played 70% of his snaps in line and blocked on 16% of his pass plays. Now, I know it's in college and things can change to the next level, but since I've been doing this at the NFL level, only 3 guys have essentially blocked on more than 15% of their pass plays and finished as top 5. One was George Kittle, who does, he's like a freak. The other 2 was Julius Thomas in 2013. Again, I've been doing this a long time. And that was the year Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdown passes. So that doesn't count. The other one was a year that Gronk played 10 games, caught 10 touchdowns in 10 games, and he got hurt. So the sample size of guys that block.
So he's either going to be one of the best tight ends of our time, or you're not going to see him so much.
Right. Now, the thing is, people say, oh, well, Gronk, you got to be athletic if you're going to be Gronk and Kittle. This guy's dad is Jason Taylor. His uncle is Zach Thomas. So his dad is Xerxes from 300, basically. So like, checks that box, but I don't know.
Is this one of those guys that you can see? I know you always stress this pretty hard. How clearly can you see him being second on the team in targets when you look at the rest of that pass catching room in a Tanner Engstrand offense?
It's it's possible, man. It is possible. Right now, if I had to dole out targets, I would probably go Garrett Wilson 1, Breece Hall 2.
Probable? You could throw a probable tag on that?
Probable Garrett Wilson 1, Breece Hall 2. But Taylor's in that mix. Taylor's in that mix, so. And the thing is, if Taylor went in the second round to the Jets and then no other tight end went to the third round and the landing spots weren't good, then he'd be easy tight end 3. But we got Terrence Ferguson to the Rams. We got Elijah Arroyo to the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are going to use a fullback. They drafted this big goon named Oots out of
– Is that the Alabama fullback?
Oh, he played only a little bit of fullback in Alabama, but what a good fullback name.
Flex.
Right? Every time he gets the ball. Every 4 games when he touches the ball once by accident, the crowd goes, ooh, right? Like it's gonna be
one of my biggest pet peeves in sports is anybody who has a syllable that's ooh and the whole crowd goes ooh. Yeah. I can't stand
it's coming, bro. Like John Kuhn. It's gonna be like John Kuhn situation all over again.
Kuhn is the big one.
I remember there was when there was a game like when I was much younger. It was the Steelers against the Ravens. And every time a tight end on either team got the ball, the crowd was doing the same thing. It was
that's really funny, actually.
Dude, it was so funny. It was the tight end for the I can't remember the names of the tight ends, dude. Who's the Steelers? With chat? Who is the Steelers tight end? Because if I get one of them, the other one's easy.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. That's gonna drive me nuts.
It wasn't Dallas Clark, but it was in that era. It
wasn't the guy who dropped.
It was Ryan Heath. It was not Ryan Heath. It was Heath. One was Heath, and the other one was wow, good radio here. But either way, dude, it's just there's nothing like a good chant from the crowd, like the Coop chant. That one. Coop. All right, back to the game here. Do you like Cam Scatterbo? Yes or no? That's like that's the only question for that play.
Yeah, I do. And I really like the fit with Tyrone Tracy. The line will be better than it was last year, but probably still not good. So he's going to take on quite the beating. But I mean, just like that's traditional thunder and lightning right there. They're going to be crazy. That is such a Frankenstein offense with who they have and what they're going to try and do.
Yeah, I love Tyrone Tracy, so I hate that they. Okay, there it is. Albert has the name. Heath Miller was one of the tight ends, and the other one was Todd Heap. So every time a tight end touched the ball, the crowd's like, "Heap."
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
thank you, Albert, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do dislike that it's a. I was hoping Tyrone Tracy could get somebody he would just dispatch in all categories, but I think
Yeah.
you're right. It's a good NFL mix, which is bad for fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, they're still going to be in a lot of third and longs. He's still going to see the field pretty frequently. I mean, I don't think the great PPR scam of 2024 is coming back with Wan'Dale Robinson. They run a ton of 11 personnel. So, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be the neighbors show, maybe a few Darius Slayton targets, and then hopefully they get back to running the ball like they did before Saquon bailed.
Yeah. So I mean, oh, the Saquon, that's like the Ashton Genty argument. It's like, is it going to be something just like that where he just struggles on the Raiders and then goes somewhere and wins a Super Bowl? Hard to say.
Well, the Giants just did the classic money ball. Like, guys, you're trying to replace Saquon. We can't, but we can recreate him in the aggregate. That's basically what they're trying to do.
Yeah, with a 23-year-old white guy and a converted wide receiver, right? It's like talk about glue.
They're
pick
so
up
funny.
sticks, but it could work. Next pick here, Jalen Milroe. I've got to say, regardless of what you think about the pick, Coach, did you see the Coach Speak video? I know you and I both love what Greg does over there. Did you see the video?
I have not. No, I know I saw the tweet. I didn't watch the video. I was busy, guys. I got old Miss Burner accounts to talk to.
It's brutal. Yeah, you're deep in the dude sphere or whatever, but it's it's so brutal. A reporter goes, Jalen Milroe said that you guys told him you were the QB1 on your board. And dude, and the guy sits there and he goes, no.
now to sports.
He's like, I don't think he was, but man, it was close.
Yeah,
it's just like, geez, dude, welcome to the NFL.
Yeah, that's why we need Coach Speak, because I wouldn't have seen something like that, and now you saw it and get to pass it along the line. I love the pick for them though, and I love the upside. You know, they're a quarterback who needs development on a team who's only tied to a quarterback really for 2 years and is kind of could go either way. So that could, as far as like fantasy upside goes in this draft, he is number one.
True, yeah, because he truly ran 100 times. Like he's the guy that. The thing is with rushing quarterbacks, if you run like 90 times, if you run 90 times and play every game, there are so few guys that have done that and not finished as a QB1 in fantasy. I'm talking I looked at it. There's been like there's literally been one example of the last like 15 years, and it was Colin Kaepernick in like 2014.
Checks out.
If you run 90 times, you're pretty much locked. 90 times and play every game. Like, because some guys will run 90 times and play like 12 games, then you don't finish as QB1. But if you're playing every game and running 90 times, you're locked in. And Milroe, if he's going to play every game, I expect him to run that much. He's got to win the job, though. That's the thing. We talked Jaden Higgins. We talked Jack Besh. Jalen Noel. We're going to skip it. Isaac Tesla. We talked Hunter. Tyler Show to the football dial is interesting, right? Because he's 60 years old, but I think he's a good football player, though. Like, that's the problem I run into. Same with like RJ Harvey, who's 60 years old in dog years, is that like I think he could start this year. I think he could play a good number of games.
It's funny that the team that he goes to, I kind of feel like he could be what Derek Carr was for the Raiders in 2015 coming out of Fresno. And I feel like he could be that early where it was kind of like, okay, this guy's fun. I can see the ceiling already, but the floor is higher than I thought it was. And, Kellen Moore can kind of bring that juice to the offense. I don't love the offense, but I like the pieces they have if they're healthy and on the field.
I think you can do, like, if your league's really active, and I hate banking on trying to do this, but if you get to a point in your draft where you don't like anybody and it's super flex and you just want to do try and pick and flip, like this guy, like a perfect examples would be like Davis Mills, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, right? Guys that like go out, run a little bit, have a really long neck, and they start a couple games. Like you could just say, okay, I don't like anybody. I'm going to go for the pick and flip. The problem with picking Tyler Show there is I do like the next pick by Mike Dempsey, staying on brand. He's also the voice of the Jaguars on the radio. Bayshell Tootin. I like that one.
Rootin' tootin'.
Yeah, and my argument is as simple as this: athletic guy, but more than anything, the same argument for your pick where you took Jarquez Hunter. I like the people making the pick. I like James Gladstone and Liam Cohen. I think that these guys know how to build successful offenses. I think that the Les Snead, Brad Holmes coaching tree knows how to find these guys. So if this, and I also don't necessarily love the guys I already have in Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. So I think.
All right, I'm gonna use the Chat GPT to pour water on your parade here. Here's the 3 bullet points: undersized grinder with no top gear, got stuffed on most carries and didn't offer much as a receiver. Turned into a healthy scratch by midseason. That's a scathing review by the folks at ChatGPT.
You know what's crazy is that they
also
actually,
inaccurate.
It's also not true, but they managed to get like 9 bullet points in there. Like the first bullet point just kind of throws in a no top gear in there.
Oh, dude, it's just like, you know what? Some websites probably got some version of that, and it jumbled it around and spat it back to us. But
didn't he run like a 4-4?
4-3-2.
4-3-2. Yeah, 4-3-2, dude. Like, what are you talking about? What is the top gear? What's the top gear for ChatGPT?
Oh, dude, the database has got to be something else. Like what I struggle with this pick though, and I've been very vocal about this, is this still doesn't tell me how they feel about ETN and Bigsby. Bringing in a third guy like they've done. I've seen Cohen with 3 guys and make it work. So that's not really a problem with Tootin. But as far as like, what are you guys actually going to try to do with a line whose best addition is basically a converted tackle to guard and coming out as a rookie from West Virginia? I just don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. They started with the weapons when maybe most teams probably should start with the line. But you know what? They're going to have they just got there, so they'll have a little bit of a leash. They'll have a couple of years to figure it out. But yeah, I definitely don't agree with the fallacy of Liam Cohen drafted Bucky Irving and then he took over the job. So that's going to happen here because
that's a mistake.
Right. There's too many if this, then that's, and there's too many comparisons that you're making that aren't the same people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Well, you just to bring it back to what you started this point off with, talking about Tyler Shuck and you like the next pick. You're talking about a running back room whose stock is sliding down. And so you're looking for a guy whose path to getting more work is a little easier than a lot of the picks that are going to come next.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So Shuck, you're right. I like that one player, but I don't necessarily have, I probably would have taken Kyle Williams. I like him. So next few picks here, Shadur Sanders. And again, people are like, oh yeah, the character's why he slid. Dude, talent still right? Like Joe Mixon punched a girl in the face. I saw it.
Just look at the Jameis Winston storylines from his freshman and sophomore year.
Right.
The guy still goes first overall because he's a talent.
He was committing crimes, plural. And they're all, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, I mean, you can watch Joe Mixon punch a girl right now. Jeffrey Simmons is on video, actually beating a woman up. It turned out that there was some sort of circumstances that led to that with family insults or whatever. But then he tore his ACL in February, right? And the Titans picked him in the first round, and he's awesome. So if you say something annoying in the interviews, but you're super talented, you still go in the second. You know what I mean? You go in the third. You don't go in the fifth. So I don't know, man. I think it's bad news Bears.
I think that if you can find a way to get him on your team, though, I think, man, you look at that roster, I think he's going to start some games at some point, and how much value that ends up bringing long-term, I can't say for sure. But if you're going to be Shadur Sanders on a team, this is kind of the quarterback room you want to be in.
Yeah.
But if you want a path to start him.
This isn't even the first time the Browns have had 5 terrible quarterbacks, and they just every time they do it, they just rotate bad guys in and out. Even last year, dude, they had Bailey Zappi started games. I don't know.
It's tough. That guy who has the shirt with all the names on the back of the jersey is going to need to get a trench coat or something if at some point.
He's gonna be looking like Ursula from Little Mermaid. Just he's gonna have to have different branches coming off the bottom. So I don't know. I think Browns are a stay away. Elijah Arroyo, I like the situation. I mentioned earlier that they're going to use the full. I mentioned in the 4 seconds we had from Nate's pick till Jim's was done,
Yeah.
that they brought in the fullback that highly consolidates. I mean, Clint Kubiak was with the 49ers, and then he
Mhm.
left there, the team that uses the fullback. Then he left there and went to the Saints, used Adam Prentice. Adam Prentice had the second most snaps in that backfield behind only Alvin Kamara. Now he
Yeah.
comes here. They draft a fullback. He says in the press conference they're going to use a fullback. So when you look at how George Kittle does what he does, how Jonnu Smith had his breakout, I don't know
Mhm.
who's going to start for the Seahawks, but whoever it is, if it's a every down player, has upside because the fullback takes the wide receiver 3 off the field, and it's like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, so who cares anyway? And Noah Fant can be cut, and they save $10 million. 9.5.
Yeah. Their room is insane. Basically, they can roll out Kenneth Walker, JSN, Cooper Kupp. Like you said, Scantling's going to be they're replacing Scantling with their draft picks, and then Arroyo. I mean, that is like
Kind of
that's
nice.
Madden-esque. That's Madden-esque.
And they took the best available lineman with Gray Zabel in the first
Yeah.
round. And they have you. The thing is, that line was going to be better no matter what, even if they did nothing, for 2 reasons. One, their guard retired during the season last year,
Mhm.
right? Connor, is that not a little disruptive? People always talk about continuity, right? Jim Harbaugh said your offensive line's like a fist. Well, just imagine like your ring finger retires. Try to throw a punch
Yeah.
with that. And then the other is that Rick Dennison's like the offensive line whisperer, and Clint Kubiak brought him over. And Clint Kubiak didn't even get fired by the Saints. He was on a 1-year contract and saw that dumpster fire and said, "I'm leaving." So
I like the Torrey Horton pick too. I like him as like the MVS replacement. He only played 6 games last year. Otherwise, he probably would have been more on more people's radar. But I mean, they're doing some stuff. It's funny how clear the fingerprints of Clint Kubiak already have on the way that they drafted this team. It is like they gave him the keys immediately.
Well, the Saints scored 91 points over the first 2 games last year, right? And then
I've heard, yes.
Eric McCoy got hurt. So did
Mm.
Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Taysom
Mhm.
Hill, and Alvin Kamara. So
Yeah,
important pieces to what you're trying to do.
indeed.
Dylan Sampson is a player I like, but he went to the same team as a team that took Quick Shot Judkins in the second round.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that.
That one I really hated because I was higher on him depending if he could go to a team that didn't have the competition like they're going to have, because I even still like Jerome Ford there, but that feels like an odd man out scenario, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have next guy here. I have Kyle Williams ranked in the second round range. I probably would have taken him right after you took Jack Besh. Where I would have taken him. So I think that's a very good pick. It was right before me. Then I auto draft Terrence Ferguson. So I really don't want to talk about this part of the draft.
Let me ask you. Let me get your 30 seconds on how you think Kyle Williams fits into this offense alongside with Diggs and Polk and whatever else they try to do. Really.
Yeah, I think that since they don't have a pure split end right now, what they're going to do is use a lot of 2 tight end sets to supplement that, because you need to have 2 guys with their foot tethered to the line on every play. So you're going to have a lot of Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, and you're going to have tethered slot guys like Stephon Diggs can do. Yeah. Hoop. Yeah, exactly. Crowd goes crazy for Austin Hooper. And then it's going to be the best 2 players, because like you don't need to say, okay, this guy has to be a big bodied player. This guy has to be a field stretcher. Like, it's whoever the best 2 guys are. And I'm already hearing rumors that Jalen Polk is on the trade block. I mean, Gerard Mayo brought in the coach for Tyler Hughes, the wide receiver coach. He was a coach over at Washington. So they brought him in, and then he drafted Jalen Polk from Washington, and then they fired Tyler Hughes, and then now they're going to trade Jalen Polk. So that was just a complete nightmare situation, and I don't think there's anything really redeeming there. So I think it's just going to be the best. Whoever's the best whoever does the best is gonna get the gig. The thing is, Demario Douglas offers a decent floor, so he could end up being a guy. So we'll see. Devin Neal, everyone's saying I feel like every time the fantasy community says, "Oh, this is the best 6th round pick of all time," that almost never ever works.
Just quit trying to replace Alvin Kamara. Until he is retired, I'm not having 1 second of it.
Mickey Loomis, for no reason last year on a dumpster fire team, was like, you know what? We don't have any money for next year, but let's just give Alvin a little more.
Dude, he speaks to us, dude. I do these podcasts so that GMs finally start making moves like that for my dynasty rosters.
It's so funny when they do that. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, let's give him 2 more years with 20 million guaranteed. And then the offseason rolls around and I pull the chart up and it's like, wait, Saints are $43 million over the cap? What was Mickey doing? Who
If
does he report to?
If Mickey Loomis walked into a room, would you recognize him?
Yes, I would, because I've pulled up his well, actually, the thing is, he's been the GM for so long that every picture
Yeah.
of him is so different. He's
Yeah,
been the
he's
GM
got
for
like
20 years.
he's definitely got like you can age him pretty well from when he started this job until now. Dude, he should look worse depending
He
on
looks
what
he
this
looks
team is.
good. He looks good, dude. He's like a Pete Carroll. Not necessarily Pete Carroll is the gold standard of just of being like politician handsome. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
Mickey Loomis looks good, man. And the thing is, the only 2 GMs that have been the GM for longer than him own the team.
Yeah.
So like,
well, dude, he was splitting time. He was the GM of the Pelicans at one point, dude. He is and you know what? His draft picks show that.
yeah, he always trades up
Cap
or
management.
weird picks. Cap management is bad. I don't know, man. So Oronde Gadsden pick, I think there's upside to be had there because Mark Andrews played 85% of his snaps from a wide receiver role, had a top 5 all-time season under Greg Roman. What do you think about this Pat Bryant pick? Because I don't know what to think. I do have some thoughts, but like I am a little confused, but also intrigued.
Yep. I think, this is just like, I'm a little gun shy from what's been going on with the mid to late round or even second round draft picks in Denver the last few years. So it's like, it does just feel like it gets lost in the noise, but I like the direction the team's going. I kind of like what the consistent quarterback play is going to do. So you know what? He's a bigger dude. If he can, if Cortland Sutton's definitely still going to be the one on this team, I don't think there's any threat there. Sean Payton always has these guys who kind of pop up now and then and do kind of like guest cameos, like they're on a sitcom, like if you look at somebody's Wikipedia and it's like, oh, they were on Scrubs for 4 episodes. Like that's kind of how they do wide receiver too. That's what we might be getting out of Pat Bryant.
So like little Jordan Humphrey is JD's brother that just like comes around
who needs money or something. Yeah.
So I know you're right though. They do kind of, those guys just kind of hover around, right?
Yeah.
Adam Trotman, plays like the janitor. Okay. So so the Pat Bryant one, it's starting to feel a little bit like, and dude, I always hesitate to say this because like someone will just clip it and be like, oh, he said Pat Bryant is Terry McLaurin. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Terry McLaurin, when he got drafted, a lot of people didn't like him. A lot of people didn't have him ranked high. Pro Football Focus did, but a lot of other places didn't like him, and he didn't have good college stats. And he went in the 3rd round, and he wasn't even the first guy drafted from his college. Paris Campbell was.
Yeah, this was like pre-Ohio State recognition for their wide receiver production that it is now. It was like they didn't have that at the time.
Exactly. And everyone said, because the quarterback I drafted in the 1st round, was it Haskins that year? And they were like, everyone was like, oh yeah, it's because of the quarterback. And then it turns out that he was worth a 3rd round pick. And Pat Bryant was picked 62 overall, I think, which is like, no, 70 something. I don't know. Yeah. But whatever it is, it's not a bad spot to be picked. Right. So I think Pat Bryant, like, he's a guy that should be going in the top 36. I'll pick him ahead of Devin Neal. I'll pick him ahead of Dylan Sampson just because it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, that's a spot on the team that's clearly up for grabs on an offense that you want a spot on a team that's clearly up for grabs. So those are kind of the guys, and especially his physical traits meet. They kind of match the prototype for somebody who succeeds in his offenses.
Exactly. And on the flip side, he has one of the few coaches that if you end up in the doghouse, you're just dead. So
yeah, you're gonna know very, very.
We'll know quickly. Yeah, what's going on there? Like he put Greg Dulcich in for one. Greg Dulcich dropped 3 passes in one game and then didn't play again, and it wasn't even on the team at the end of the year. So of these last few picks, we'll leave my Woody Marks pick out of it. We'll just label that as good. Of these last guys here that went back to back to back to back, these running backs, which one would you have selected here? Of Taj Brooks, Ollie Gordon, Jordan James, Damian Martinez, and DJ Giddens.
Well, you know what? Not to flex on them. I did do curls earlier, like we said. I'm taking my guy, Brashard Smith, 2 picks after them over all of these guys.
Ooh,
Especially when you look at
scrollies.
Especially when you just look at like the current as we're sitting right now, the Chiefs are still looking at Kareem Hunt, Keontae Ingram, Elijah Mitchell, Isaiah Pacheco. That's just they're just screaming for somebody else, like they always are every year. They're going to give a guy opportunity. 5 different Chiefs players took the ball last year, and that was even before the Pacheco injury. Half of those. So I don't like he went in the 7th round for a reason. He's a little smaller. He's got an undersized frame, all that. But that's basically all of their running backs other than Kareem Hunt. That's the players that they like. They like guys who have big time speed or good receivers, can move in space, all that stuff. So I like a little Brashard Smith.
Yeah. So you basically just described Darwin Thompson.
Yeah. You know what? And I was so hyped on him and I was so pleased with how that worked out.
Tomorrow we're going to get a video of Brashard Smith squatting 800 pounds, right? So I do have Brashard Smith ahead of a few of these guys, ahead of DJ Giddens. The guy I have him ahead of Ollie Gordon. The guy I have ahead, the top of this group though, is Jordan James.
Yeah.
And it's just because double
Shanahan bump.
Right. Exactly. Shanahan's a wild card, right? We've seen him draft 2 running backs in the same class in Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell and go with Mitchell. We've seen him then trading Jordan Mason away, getting rid of these guys. Like, he's just such a wild card that it's like, what if, not to mention Jordan James, like, all the spreadsheets don't like him because he didn't have a young breakout age, but he's behind Bucky Irving. So turns out Bucky Irving's pretty good. So you know what? There you go. Any final thoughts on this puppy before we get you out of here?
No, not necessarily. I would recommend everybody to just heed everything we say and apply it to your rookie drafts and don't do anything else differently, because nothing we said today was wrong and it certainly will never be used against us in any capacity.
Yeah, dude, definitely in your draft, take Pat Bryant and say Coop said he was Terry McLaurin.
But with more upside.
Yeah, when your friends are upset with you. Do you have a show tonight?
I've got a show tonight at 8:00 with Jagger May. We're doing what the hell were these guys thinking in the NFL draft? So I'll take some of the negativity and really bang it out.
Nice, dude. Definitely throw out, please throw out some Ryan Poles business tonight. So everybody check that out. We'll be recapping this draft on Sirius XM, most likely. My show with Howard tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. But I'm sure the football diehards will be talking about it. Probably the Coventry, the RotoWire guys, Real Talk. This is all a bunch of guys from the channel. So check it all out, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hit like and subscribe on this here channel to stay up to date with everything we got going on. But for Chuck Bass, for Fantasy Alarm,